Hi, I'm Kevin from Power Plus Cleaning Solutions, and Henry and we just wanted to have kind of a group chat about buying used equipment. So there's a lot of pros and cons about it.
No,
So
I
the,
mean, I
the
see that all the time. I'm watching the forums and Facebook pages and whatnot, where guys like, hey, I need a truck mount here, and you got use good used ones, and I'm like, well, define good used one. My mind immediately goes to all the horror stories that I've heard from people who are buying, and are they really buying the deal that they think that they're buying? What kind of prompted this whole conversation to begin with, and I'm glad we have a chance to share with everybody else of having seen used equipment, some things maybe to look out for if you're considering buying a piece of equipment used off of Craigslist.
over the years, I've come up with an analogy. My favorite analogy is to think about these like oil wells because they're not cars. So cars are very easy to ascertain the quality of them and whether or not they've been maintained. But my analogy I give people is to think of it more like an oil well, because an oil well like sits out in a field pumping oil, and it's pumping money out of the ground, just pumping money, pumping money. Every time you see that thing go up and down. And truck mounts are like that. They make money off of flooring. So all types of carpet and linoleum, VCT, marble, granite, hardwood floors, concrete, pressure washing that can be used for window washing, auto detailing. If you own a machine that's making you money, there's a limited number of reasons why you dump it. So either you're dumping it or you're upgrading. If you're dumping it, it's because every major system is about to go bad. If you just need a new motor, then that's like that oil well needing a new motor. You don't give up on the oil well. It's making you money. And from that money, you can easily buy a new motor. But if you have major systems that are all simultaneously been milked, then it's time to dump a unit. And that's an oil well that's dried up. If you're doing all these crazy methods to get the last little drops of oil out of your well, the person that buys it, they're going to buy a dead oil well. And that's kind of what happens in the used truck mount market. So most used truck mounts fall in that category where every major system is about to die. They've missed a lot of their scheduled maintenance and all of their preventative maintenance at that point, because nobody spends $1,000 doing all the preventative maintenance and scheduled maintenance on a machine they're about to dump. So you can guarantee you got that expense coming up at minimum. So if all your major systems are still good, you still got to dump another $800 to $1,200 for a comprehensive service of the machine that you just bought.
What would you think if you were to replace every major component? Would you probably exceed the cost of a new truck mount?
If you bought retail all of the major components, you would easily spend more money than a brand new system. So people look at a truck mount, they're like, wow, I get a truck mount for $7,000. And I'm like, no, you can get just a mess. You can get a real big mess for $7,000.
How can somebody look at or inspect themselves a used truck mount and decide whether or not it's going to be worth the investment?
You can ask for service records and nobody has them. That's true for whether they service it or not. The bare bone minimum, hook up the machine and clean with 200 or 300 feet of hose out. With the vacuum hoses out and a wand on the ground, if you let it sit like that for 10 minutes, it should not overheat. If it does, you've got primary safety systems that are broken and more than one, because every truck mount out there has 5 to 7 different layers of safety systems on their heat exchangers. So it's the heat exchange systems that you can easily dump $3,000, sometimes more, $4,000 into fixing an overheat issue. It's very, very common.
Right. What about visual inspections?
Well, you can check things visually. You want to look that there not be a lot of grease, not a lot of oil. Those are signs of you got leaking seals and things like that. When you have oil splattered around, you're going to start losing belts and hoses. They'll start blowing, and hoses aren't cheap anymore. It's really important to check well. I mean, that's why we put warranties on machines.
Right, which is a good point of why maybe consider an alternative to buying off of Craigslist or something like that. Is getting a warranty. It could be a massive benefit for somebody, especially somebody starting out. You don't have a ton of capital to begin with to be putting back into a machine that you just bought. It'd be better to just maybe buy with a warranty and have that peace of mind.
Warranties are not necessarily if it breaks warranties, they're manufacturer's defect warranty. If a vendor wants to be a stickler, the question they're asking is, was it built wrong? If the answer is yes, it's covered under warranty. If the answer is no, then you're stuck with that bill. So that's what a manufacturer's warranty is, a defect warranty. It's not the same as a if anything happens warranty. We do something close to that. We really, what we do is we match the original warranty that the machines came with. So it's kind of crazy. We'll take a machine that's 10 years old. So we use an inspection sheet like this, and it lets us check our 27 points. And that sheet is how we meticulously go through all the different systems, inspecting everything. And when I do buy a used machine, I'm always putting at least $4,000 worth of parts in it. Always 4,000 in parts and labor. So think about that. If I'm buying a machine and I got to put $4,000 in parts and labor into it, minimum, then somebody buying off Craigslist ought to be thinking, minimum, I'm going to put $4,000 in this. Common thing that happens is people will be like, oh, I want to get my machine, an oil change done. I'm like, okay, great, $28. And they're like, well, why do you want to charge 600 for a full service? And I'm like, because a full service is 27 systems and oil change is one.
Like, what would you say would be like the number one thing if you were to see this, just don't buy it?
On most machines, it's 2 or 3 things broken at that point, at the point that it's not actually pulling. So they kind of all wear out together, and you can put one brand new part in and it still won't work right. So because the 3 other are dead behind it, or it'll just begin to work a little bit. So you end up changing all 4 systems usually to get that fixed. And that could be $300 to $500. So that's not a cheap thing.
That's if you're assuming that's just the one bit of the problem. It could be worse than that too.
Yeah. Water pump rebuilds, we do them all the time. You're looking at nowadays about $400 to $600 based on the what brand pump it is. So those aren't deal killers. Control systems, wiring issues. If you see a lot of disconnected wires, more than 1 or 2, that would alarm me. If you see things that have been changed, like they're running some weird wire from here to there, then they're bypassing whole systems to make something work. So you got big problems. Most ProChem Performer has 127 wires and 21 different sensors and systems that control heat.
Wow.
There's a design intent for those things. There's an important reason that ProChem spent big money putting those systems and those wires and those sensors in their machines. When they're broken or bypassed, you're putting yourself or your machine at big risk. Just because you can make the machine start spinning again and make noise and you can clean carpet with it, that doesn't mean that you have a machine that you want to be running,
Right. When you buy from somebody like that and you don't know it, you can run into some big problems.
And you may end up MacGyvering your new machine to make it work. And you don't know if it's going to cause a fire or not. I've had several customers burn homes down. I've had a few burn carports down, but they were people that come and shop here. I'm not trying to scare people. The real thing, though, is that there are some realities, some hard, fast realities. And that is, if a machine hasn't been kept stock, then there's some risk of it. Guaranteed, no matter what, it's going to be harder to work on and take longer to work on because now your documents don't match the machine. So now you're going to have somebody who understands truck mounts way better. 20% of the machines out there have bypass systems. It's like a cancer in their business. I watch these guys. Like, I got a great customer who has a machine. He had heat control problems that kept the machine from running.
Would you say it was because of a modification to the unit? That's what was causing the problems?
His first one was. And after that, I pulled out his mods and changed it back to factory, and I figured out what was really wrong. And sometimes those problems are a real pain in the butt. And it probably took me 3 hours to chase down what was wrong on it. And I don't remember exactly at this point. I just remember that it took a long time to find it, and then we found it. Downtime, this is the point I wanted to get to, is that downtime just embarrasses the crap out of you, and it makes you look bad in front of a customer. You waste your time. You wake up thinking you're going to make a few $100, and instead you're spending a few hundred or 1,000. So you're just begging for downtime when you buy something off Craigslist.
So that's kind of a scary notion. I'm all for saving $1, right? If I can, I can do it myself, or if I can, pick something up, great. I'm going to do it myself because that's trying to save a buck, but there's also points when I'm going to realize that, this is what my livelihood is based on right now. I don't know that I want to go the cheapest route. But
Yeah.
but you're a great example because you do buy used machines and fix them up and resell them.
I do.
So that this is an option.
It is. And there are good used machines, but I do it differently. Like I watch Craigslist and I see a lot of my customers' rigs on there. Like recently, there's a machine that has a computer on it, computer controlled program. There's no way to fix the machine. The computers aren't supported. Program doesn't support it. There's no way to bypass it. I told him about $12,000 to put in a new PLC and program it for his machine, or rip everything out and let me hardwire and hard cable everything. He's at about 12,000 on that too. So he was like, I don't want to do that. So I saw it on the machine on Craigslist, and then he wrote, runs good. You can't service it and you can't replace anything. So at this moment in time, it runs good. But within 100 hours, when it's time for next service interval, the computer's going to lock them out. That's a crazy example, and it's a rare one. But I see machines that I had a guy who wanted to 7,000 for a machine a few months ago, and he kept coming down. He got down to $500, and I was like, you don't get it. I don't want this machine. It is not worth anything to me. Somebody that scours Craigslist will find our machine for 8 and that one for 5, and they're both the same machine.
Mm-hmm.
But his machine wasn't worth $500 to me because everything on it was wrong. Everything. And it still runs. He can turn a key, and you can feel suction, and water squirts out a hose. So to somebody who doesn't understand a machine, it runs.
Right.
Yeah, but nothing on it runs right, and everything's jury-rigged, and everything's about to fall apart, and everything's bad. It's all bad.
So I kind of want to wrap this up a little bit though, because we kind of running along here. But so basically, do the 10-minute test with solution on a carpet.
Yep.
Make sure that's letting it sit for 10 minutes. Yeah, 300 feet of hose. Make sure that thing's sitting out there for 10 minutes, see if it overheats. Look for oil splatters. Look for anything that's been modified. If you see wires that are just randomly going places that don't make sense. I assume that we'd also talk about like rust, things that are just looking like they're like there might have been leaks or something going on. I mean, I understand that you're in a wet environment. It's going to happen. But there's normal rust, and then there's something that's corroding.
Yeah, which brings me to waste tanks. If it has an aluminum waste tank, open it up with a bright flashlight. Look at how deep the pits are. They get galvanic corrosion, and they will pit out. They'll rot, and it'll look like the surface of the moon on the inside of the tanks, and they'll be paper thin. So if the moment you start getting cracks on that, you can't weld it because you can't weld next to another moon crack.
Right. So there's nothing left to weld to.
Yeah. If it's a fatigue crack where it's bends so much that it cracked, we can weld that. And it's an out of sight, out of mind thing. Most buyers don't stick their head in the waste tank and with flashlight and look around. So that's
plus you can also check the filters too. Look at are they gunked up? Have they been changed? What kind of maintenance is going on with this?
Are they even there?
Yeah, are they even there? Yeah, that's a good one.
If you guys out there get a chance to think about this, you can give us a call, and also you can bring machines in and we'll do inspections. We'll do these inspections for you. I think we charge $160, but we apply that towards any repairs that are done. So it ends up being free. That's just our way of not wasting 3 hours for free. So we'll do the inspections, and then you'll know exactly what you're going to buy in, and that's cheap insurance.
So if somebody can bring a used truck mount, like say, hey, I want to buy it, but you got to meet me over here at this place. I'm going to have it looked over and then make my decision off that report.
Yep. Usually they can talk the buyer into doing it because they have a level of curiosity of what their machine needs. So it's a benefit to them and it's a benefit to the buyer. So he can know. And then they often will haggle it out. They'll be like, oh, okay, so the shop says it's going to need $2,800 worth of stuff. And they can then negotiate a new price or something like that. So it works out, it benefits them.
Makes sense to me. Cool, man. Well, thanks for your time, Kevin. Talk to you soon on the next topic.
All right.